and welcome to another expedition podcast. And in this one, we have a little bit of a sad topic to talk about. I'm joined by Arthurmauk and Myzrael once again.
Hello.
Hello.
And today we want to talk about the news that got released 2 days before sunsetting expeditions. And basically, Riot said that they are going to close expeditions, will still be available until patch 3.80, but we will no longer get the open play or the free play, how they called it. And the expedition tokens are also removed, so we will have significantly less players in expeditions, or it eventually will get fully removed and will no longer be accessible. I also state the reasons for that in this article, and the player count was lower than we had hoped for, and other modes have ended up competing for the same type of feeling the expeditions offers. Path of Champions competes for a similar draft-like experience, and the ranked PvP provides a competitive landscape. And I think I still think there's room for a competitive draft experience, but they're removing expeditions because it wasn't it. And right now, they think about making a new competitive draft experience in the future, but their resources are currently focused in other areas like Path of Champions and expansions, so they will likely not have another update on this until next year. And until then, you can still play expeditions, and whether you went Season 7, 0, anything between, we want to thank everyone who enjoyed expeditions. It might be a while as we go back to the drawing board, but we'll keep you updated on our plans for a draft PvP experience as they come to shape. So very sad news for us, and we kind of all saw it coming a little bit with the lack of support, Chase still not being expeditions, and yeah, this is just very sad news today. And we had like a lot of talk in our expeditions Discord already, just thinking what went wrong, what was done. We even had like ideas to make our own limited draft mode. And if this ever comes to fruition, we will, of course, showcase this on this channel. But today we have planned to talk a little bit about this update. And first, we want to talk about what we actually liked in expeditions and what made it fun for us. So, Arthur, what did you enjoy in expeditions?
I have played other card games before Legends of Runeterra. Of course, I played Magic and Paper and then Hearthstone. And eventually I realized that I just prefer playing limited game modes more than constructed game modes. And the reason for that is because of the main thing is the variety for me. As they say, variety is the spice of life. And I didn't particularly enjoy playing kind of the same meta decks against each other um, uh, again and again in constructed. So I enjoyed limited formats and expeditions specifically. And I ultimately also think it's probably because I enjoy evaluating cards and seeing which cards are good, rating them. That's why we went through the whole project of rating 1,000 cards in expeditions. And I enjoy getting an edge there because I think I am not a particularly good deck builder for constructed. Um, what little experiments I have had building decks in constructed has not been very successful. But I am quite good at rating cards for limited card game modes. So I feel like I can get an edge there, and therefore I also kind of win more in limited game modes. So that's probably why I also enjoy it more. So yeah, I think variety and the fact that I have a bit more of an edge in evaluating cards.
Mr. what about you? What did you enjoy on this expedition game mode?
For me, it's similar feeling than for Arthur. I really like different games. When the games feel different, every one of them, every draft is different. I have to look for sometimes strange different ways of winning. Also, I like characters. I like seeing different animations, hearing different voice lines, and I like to care about characters, and champions are great for that. So this is a really good reason for to me for playing expeditions, because in expeditions over than in constructed, I can have success with different strategies, so I can see different champions shine, and I can feel that I am the one who made these different champions powerful.
Yeah, I fully agree on that. And like probably most of you have seen my games reviews video that I uploaded on Monday, where I talked about all the games I've played, from Magic the Gathering to Hearthstone. And Expeditions was just very special because it didn't feel like everybody was tryharding so hard. Many people were playing fun decks, many people were playing different decks, and you could be successful even if you played a suboptimal strategy. Oftentimes, in other card games where there are more rewards online, then it feels like everybody just tries to win, just tries to get the best results because they feel that they can only do one draft per week. They're like free to play. In Expeditions with the open play system, you would just encounter almost all decks and just so much varieties of decks. And it wasn't like just fully random. I also enjoyed that the bucket system meant that you always got a semi-synergistic deck and not just a random pile of cards. And in general, I also really enjoyed this double card system where you have actually switch over to the game and to the double card system where you had these different cards given to you and don't just pick up one bucket, for example, but multiple buckets. And that was just very amazing and made you pick up bad cards. For example, right now I see a Shyvana here and a Mobilize. And normally, Mobilize I would never pick, but because it is Shyvana and funny enough, Mountain Drake, so they actually changed our Shyvana archetypes in expeditions. So Mountain Drake would actually lead to me picking up a bad card, and I didn't ever have that in other game modes. Like in Magic Arena, you just always pick the best card out of a pack and would never really play with a card like Mobilize. However, this one was different.
Yeah, that's mega cool to try to make a different cards work. Actually, this sometimes happens in Hearthstone Arena also. There are a lot of cards that are different, that are unplayable in constructed, that are actually good in Arena. And this is also what I like. Another thing that I liked about expeditions is that the this game mode offered me option to play some relaxing games, not really try harding, not really trying my best necessarily. I could have relaxed after doing my normal stuff during the day, playing easy game mode, like what I'm gonna say, because most of these games are not that engaging, and not that you don't need to use your brain that much when you compare this to stuff like constructed in other games. So. I like this option to have this relaxing approach. Of course, some games were very hard. Some opponents were really strong, and sometimes you needed to try hard to win. But it was less likely to happen than in constructed games.
Yeah, some of the things you mentioned there, I'll touch upon again. Uh, one thing was in most card games that have a limited format, the economy is actually balanced in a way that you can actually do quite well by being good at limited game modes, and that was the case for Runeterra as well. Of course, Runeterra is a very generous game already. So ultimately, I didn't need to maximize the economy by doing well in expeditions. I just played it because I enjoyed expeditions more. But certainly at the start and still, at this point, if you do well in expeditions, you can get infinite value in that sense. Well, in fact, infinite value right now with no free play. Yeah, like that was a great way of maximizing the economy. And then also what Conan said about kind of being forced to play with bad cards. I think as fans of card games in general, games with some random element of it, we all like having a bit of variance in a game, in our games, just a bit at least, because a lot of it is about how you optimize with when you're being dealt a bad hand, basically. And it's very skill testing because sometimes when you're being dealt with a bad hand, the better players will be able to make better use of it than worse players. And a lot of the time in expeditions, because of you have to pick packs of 2 or 3 cards, you do occasionally have cards like Mobilize, and having to make use of those, having to make use of all the cards that the designers have designed, again, gives you a lot of variety, and you get to play with more of the cards than the constructed players do. So yeah, that was really enjoyable for me.
Exactly. And the bucket system also like had gameplay implications. I actually wanted to make a video on that with the draft reading, but basically you could, like, if you memorized all the buckets, you could have gained an advantage by seeing what cards your opponents played and making educated guesses what cards are more likely to see than others. For example, if I see a Teemo, I know that Teemo has no Mystic Shot in this bucket, and I see mostly Teemo cards. I don't play around Mystic Shot that much. If I see mostly Victor cards or Heimerdinger cards, then I would play more around Mystic Shot. And this was bucket reading, and this was something I used a lot and like tryharding, and basically I could oftentimes reconstruct the picks of the players that were made. And this was just like so interesting, this bucket system in drafting. You could just go into a certain bucket and see special cards over and over, like Screeching Dragons, or also in gameplay where you could gain an edge by knowing about these buckets. Did you actually play a game of Expeditions since the patch was announced or the change was announced?
I finished my run that I started before the announcement. I did 7 wins, my action Vladimir run, and I didn't play since.
Okay. Because I find it quite interesting that they like added a lot of cards to different buckets, as it seems like Arachnid Horror to Luminous Dusk, Mountain Drake to Dragon's Descent. Seems like they really, like, I expected them to just slap in a Yumi bucket and a Na bucket and like call it a day, but they seem to have really like put an effort one last time into Expeditions. Sad that like most people won't be able to see it anymore. Yeah, very interesting.
I've also finished my run just before the patch, so that I could get my record reflected in Lord Guardian. But I haven't actually installed a patch yet. I will do after this and buy the event pass. So
Yeah, I already bought the event pass. That's the first thing I did. And like, I guess we have to still play a little bit of Expeditions, like 100, 1,700 charts, not quite as much as like Arthur has. Arthur, we have like 500,000, right? Yeah. So that's like 100 is still like a lot of expeditions, like 70 expeditions, even if we go 0 wins each time. Maybe that's a good way to use the shards still.
Run out. I don't think I can play as many expeditions to run out of shards. I think time is a limiting factor there because I don't go 0 wins all the time. So,
First world problems. Okay. Yeah, next point to talk about, if you don't want to add anything more to what we love about expeditions, would be to talk about the reason we think it didn't work out. And once again, I would like to hear your opinions first and then talk myself. Myzrael, what do you think? What made expeditions fail ultimately?
I think there are two big problems that that are quite important here. One of them is pretty easy to address by Riot if they want to, because I think that trying to find incentive for players to play expeditions is one of the things. Right now, there is no really real reason to try hard in expeditions. There's no anything like leaderboard. There's no any bonus rewards. There's nothing to show except Lord Guardian probably ranking, and this is not enough to interest many people to play. So we can this is the top of this thing, but all of this not carry enough, not spending enough time on expeditions by Riot is one part of the problem. We've had a few months with tradeback. We still have Saga Seeker in expeditions. There are many problems that I literally heard recently comment from the player that he doesn't play expeditions because he hates Saga Seeker. Like 2 days ago or something like that, right before sunset, I think. So yeah, there are looming problems that are not addressed fast enough, and this makes the game mode harder to attract people. And the second part of the reason I think this didn't work is the reason why limited formats doesn't work in other games as well. There's not enough interest in limited game modes, I think, to maintain such a mode, and this is part of the problem. Even though Hearthstone Arena is kind of working, even though you sometimes wait like a minute or two for a queue, but normally there are opponents. There are even streamers playing arenas, but I think there's not enough interest in people to play limited formats. Most of the people want to put exactly what they want to their deck and try exactly what they want to do.
I disagree that limited game modes in general isn't very popular. I think that does hold true for Hearthstone, one other game that I've played, because I think Arena, and I did check with the Hearthstone and Arena HS subreddits to see how Arena has been since I left Hearthstone. And it's mostly been in the same situation, if anything, has been abandoned even more. So it's gotten a bit worse. But as Conan and I know, Magic, limited Magic has been thriving, and has done so continuously. If anything, there's probably more like passion and hype about the limited formats than about the constructed formats, because the constructed formats there has been relatively imbalanced a couple of months ago. So but it is a bit strange, and that is quite unique to Magic anyway. I'm not aware of another game where the limited game mode is so popular. And but I don't want to, talk more about Magic, and that's also why I'm a little pessimistic about the future of another competitive limited or draft mode in Runeterra. Um, that I don't know if we're gonna get news or good news next year. I think they might have said that just because they didn't want to say we're never working on it. But I wouldn't expect a popular limited game mode from Legends of Runeterra probably ever. Just because if Hearthstone couldn't make it work, and Hearthstone has had such a first mover advantage in digital card games, I think Runeterra might not, and Riot might not want to take the risk in terms of trying to create something so new, a limited format that might be as popular as drafting in Magic. I just don't think they have the risk appetite for that to put that much resource into it.
You said that constructed in Magic is fairly imbalanced. Did I understand this correctly? Because I don't know.
So there were probably cards in there that outstayed their welcome in the sense that it took a while for them to get banned. There are still more people playing constructed than limited, definitely. But I think the constructed players are just kind of doing it because it is their it is a habit, whereas the limited guys absolutely love it, arguably are addicted to it, because in the end drafting is and I think card games and games with variants, we are kind of playing a slot machine in a sense, right? We're just, there's a game with the slot machine, what to do with it. We're spinning the wheel, and drafting has an extra bit in it. Limited game modes has an extra slot machine on top of the slot machine we're already playing. And the feelings of, getting those really good cards, those Captain Farrons in your draft, that makes you feel good. And yeah, I think that's part of why I think for Magic Arena anyway, draft is so popular. So
Yeah.
I have a theory that from my experience with Hearthstone, I used to play Arena in Hearthstone more often when ladder was unbearable, when constructed was bad. So I think this might be quite the same with Magic, because people like maybe want to play Magic because it's Magic the Gathering, the game that they like. They have cards and stuff, and then constructed is bad because some cards are not on the ban list. So people start to try and play limited card mode because constructed is just too bad to bear.
Maybe if I can chime in, I have played Magic for a long time. I started collecting Magic cards when I was 7 and never knew what they did. Yeah, but when I got back into competitive Magic, I just didn't have any cards at all. And you can't with banning cards, you can't. Magic is a physical card game as well, so you can't just rework the cards or change the cards, because you can't get back all the copies of old cards and rewrite them and print them again. You have to ban cards, result to that. And when I started playing, I just didn't have any cards that were competitive, and normal Magic decks, standard or modern decks, cost 1,000 euros for one deck. Even if you go to older formats, you can spend 5,000 to 50,000 euros on one deck, and that's just not very feasible. So I naturally started out by drafting and spending $10 on a draft, opening 3 packs, and just learning this, trying to get more cards in the future. And that's how I started drafting and ended up playing multiple PPDQs and stuff like that, just traveling around Germany. And that's why I have more of an attachment to draft and to limited in general than to constructed. I've played some Commander with friends, but not really any of the competitive limited format or competitive constructed formats in Magic ever. Not because I don't like them, but because I just never really tried them. So I didn't have the money to spend 500 euros on a deck.
Yeah, so this could be another reason why limited format is more popular, because of entry barrier that Magic has. Actually, this is something that I didn't think of also earlier. But I know this. I have 3 decks for Magic, I think, real cards, but I've never used them to play. I had Magic Arena installed, I think, on my previous PC. I played maybe 10 games, something like that, on ladder, but I didn't really enjoy that.
I have to say that Magic Arena is a little bit more free-to-play friendly. Not as quite as free-to-play as Hearthstone, but I was surprised as Hearthstone as Legends of Terra, but I was surprised coming from Hearthstone how easy it was to make a deck in Arena at the start. Since then, cut a little bit back on it and made some really weird decisions that we don't have to elaborate here. But in general, I would say that Arena is a little bit better. You don't have to spend literally 500 euros on a deck. You could spend like 50 or something and still get a decentish deck. So just to put this a little bit into a contrast. I don't know how the situation is in Hearthstone. How much money do you think, Myzrael, would you have to spend if I like right now wanted to play a decent tier 2 constructed deck?
Really hard question, honestly. It depends if you want to play a long time or just make a deck and dust everything else. Because if you want to just make a deck and dust everything else, you probably can just do this by. It depends on the cost of the deck also, because in Hearthstone you have a lot of different decks, and every deck costs different amount. Because some decks have more legendaries and some have less. But if I would say decent good deck being Face Hunter right now, it's like 3 legendaries. I think like 3 weeks of normal playing should be enough without spending any money.
Okay. And what would you have to play then? Just like the beginner ranks or arena or?
There are like 25 beginner ranks that you have to go through to go to real ladder. So it's not that easy to jump into real opponents.
I actually did that like a year ago or something, and you actually got like a free deck afterwards. So I was fairly
Yeah, there is
surprised.
a free deck afterwards. Yeah, there is a free deck afterwards. You normally just check lists and pick the one with the most useful legendaries, the most amount of useful legendaries.
So I would say Hearthstone got a little bit like more generous. Arena got a little bit like less generous. It's hard to say. It's kind of stayed the same, I would say, if constructed. And Legends of Terror, of course, is still the most generous game. Which, like I just really like Magic Arena drafts as well, more than constructed.
Like Hearthstone 2 years ago in Conans Academy expansion. This was like the moment when it was the hardest probably to join, when there was no reward tracks and this big and very impactful expansion in Conans Academy just chime in. So you didn't even have an option to use this classic stuff a lot. But recently, from this point, there is more and more beginner-friendly approach in Hearthstone, but it's still really bad in comparison to like Legends of Runeterra.
Arthur, do you want to add anything on the, like you are the Magic professional, you want to add anything onto the economy part? I know you're like infinite probably, so you don't really care about economy, but
Yeah, I think Magic Arena is very generous to decent limited players, and I'm a decent limited player. I don't go infinite, and I don't think, even in Runeterra, I don't think I go infinite because obviously we don't average 7 even across 2 trials. But with the quests that we get every day, it's fairly easy to go infinite, and I went essentially quest infinite in Hearthstone Arena as well. I didn't have 7 wins average, but I think I averaged about 6 wins, and that was enough with the quest to go infinite. So
yeah, same. I had like 6.2 average in Hearthstone Arena. And yeah, what I don't like about Magic system is that it's really punishing if you are a bad drafter. Like I will along this video will upload like a Magic video, and you can see the actual rates. But if you I like the average is going 3 wins, because after 3 losses you're out, so 3 wins, the losses average, and then you get like half your draft back. But if you go 6 wins, you don't get enough extra to then recompensate for a 2 wins or 1 win. If you have a 1 win, you could just get like 50 shards back, and that's like really, really low. Even if you get like 7 wins, the maximum you get 700 shards extra. So you don't, even if you go like maximum win rate, you don't get paid enough to have a fail safe for a lost run. And
yeah, in HS Arena you have to have 7 to guarantee to go infinite in money, because you get enough gold to enter another arena on 7.
yeah. And I remember when I had like 12, one time I had like 600 gold in my 12 win arena, and that just meant I could play 4 more arenas before I had to potentially like grind ladder again. And that was just really, really generous.
Sometimes you get crappy legendary and golden common at 200 gold.
Yeah. Okay, like I didn't actually talk about why I think expeditions kind of fade a little bit, and I would say there's like 3 big reasons. I've recently been talking to a lot of other people playing Legends of Runeterra, just to Constructed or Power of Champions, and the 3 reasons are, for one, that it costs something to enter. So newer players are sometimes tempted to just use this cost to just construct their decks or do something else with it and not risk it in the trial. And at the same time, the players who actually have all the cards, which is pretty easy, one of our constructed players just has all the cards with like 7 months in it, just doesn't need, you just don't have to play expeditions anymore. If you say, I want to try out this new Yasuo and Nautilus deck, you can just go into your collection and play it yourself, draft it yourself. There's no reason to go to the random trial, maybe find 3 champions you don't actually want to play. So as a new player who actually needs resources, you kind of save it, and later on, if you have the resources to play, you don't actually have to play it anymore because you can just do whatever you want to do on your own. And the second reason is that I think most players just didn't understand the system of expeditions at all. Like, even I didn't notice that wild picks and synergy picks alter after or before I started actually doing content for this game. Just like thought it would be random. And same with these buckets. Like, they have a little bit of a description, but this description basically tells you nothing about them. Like, for Teemo, reuse your unit's beneficial summon effects as many times as you can. That's not really what Teemo is all about. Or Dragon's Descent, the fire and fury of these beasts of legend are used to command. And I noticed that even you, who play a lot of expeditions, didn't like know that you could make certain archetypes, certain buckets show up over and over again. And it's even worse with players who don't really play expeditions. They just say it's random, and they forced me to pick a Bayou branch with Misfortune. This is just like fully randomized, and didn't understand that there was actually like balance going on between these buckets. Just thought they were offered fully random cards. And I think this is a big problem with the Riot side. My biggest fix would also always been just have, if you click on this Luminous Dusk, for example, just open up the cards that are in this bucket. And the players could just see immediately what they were expecting if they pick up this bucket, maybe do like a tutorial video. I didn't understand why they made it so hidden and so hard to understand. Probably came from League of Legends, where everything is hidden and you have to read 5,000 different wikis to understand how the game works. But that just didn't really work out. Most people just thought it would be random cards, random pile of cards, which it clearly wasn't. It's a very excellent system that leads to semi-viable decks. And I always compare expeditions more to Cube, where you have your set pool of decks that are working together, instead of the like Arena, where you literally just had limited decks. And I really don't understand why they had to outsource these buckets into a spreadsheet. Like, I assure you, less than 1% of
I
the
do. I can explain it to you.
okay.
I think it's pretty easy because it will be too confusing for the player. I think main players that play games and they play Legends of Runeterra are not tryharders like you and not gonna look for a bucket and try to find it, but just gonna blindly pick the best cards, the best cards in the stream, not even noticing if this is wild or not wild or synergy peak. I think this would be too confusing for a player to read and check and take and care about everything. So the less amount of information on the screen, like, the better. This is what I think from a position of a potential of a new player that I was several months ago.
Interesting, because I have like the big problem was you don't have anyone playing expeditions competitively, and that was just because most people thought it would just not be a competitive game mode. But on the other hand, if you had like these buckets somewhere available in the game, it doesn't have to be like, literally on the screen when you draft. Just have like a subsection in your collection, for example, where you can look at the different buckets, anything like that, or just have to click on the bucket name, and then people would know it's not random anymore, and just like unsurprised. And
I still think this knowledge isn't really necessary for an average player, and this is probably the decision Riot made. But this knowledge isn't necessary for an average player. And if the player cares enough to look for that information, he can find it. He can find a spreadsheet.
Yeah, but like it's not necessary, I agree. But it's like say I play League of Legends and then I see, okay, there are like runes and stuff going on with runes, that you can like change up how your champion works in detail. I might not understand it as a new player, but I can see, this is something I can look on later when I learned the game a little bit. And if I'm interested in this game, I will come back when I play a little bit and then actually look at how this game mode works and then be surprised in how in-depth and balanced actually everything is. So,
I think I'm siding with Myzrael here in that I
okay.
don't think the reason why Expeditions wasn't popular was because not more information was in the client. I think if we had information on the client, very few people would look at it. I'm not even sure if I look at it. I think, Conan, you may be the person in the world who knows the Expedition bucket archetype spreadsheet that the most, basically. I can't imagine anyone else who knows it more than you that we haven't bumped into. Um, I love Expeditions and I play it. Don't play as much as you guys do, but I really don't care too much about the bucket spreadsheet so much. I pick whatever cards is given to me that I think is good. As I say, it's for me, it's more about card evaluation rather than a bucket evaluation. So I think if an enfranchised player like me don't need that information, I think a very small proportion of players would actually want to have that information inside the client. And I'm quite happy looking through a spreadsheet as well as the other thing. So if I want to look through stuff. So I don't think that's a big reason, certainly, that there wasn't enough information inside the client. I think there are other reasons that go beyond that. One we mentioned was, that there was an entry cost. But I'm also thinking historically, almost all limited game modes have had an entry cost. Even Phantom drafts like these, in that obviously we don't get to keep the cards afterwards. They all have a cost. Hearthstone Arena, Vintage Cube, normal draft, they all have a cost to enter. And they've never let you kind of do that infinitely. Maybe that's something that they can address. Maybe that's one of the reasons that people didn't want to give up something or feel like something is at stake. For me, and probably for you guys as well, you probably enjoyed that, right? You are putting some shards on a line to get more shards, or potentially you could lose your shards. Ultimately, it doesn't matter that much because we have plenty and we don't need much more. But I actually liked the feeling of having something at stake here, and my wins and losses matter rather than just going up some rank points or less. But I think for other people who sees that their shards is of value, they didn't want to risk it in that sense. So I feel like reasons like that is a bigger reason than um, uh, not having more information in the client.
I didn't really mean that they should show it all in animation. I also think that not many people would look at it. But I think it would be more interesting or more important to showcase that it's not random. It's not just a random pile of cards, because that's what I literally heard like 80% of times talking about Expeditions. Oh, it's just random cards. I don't like that. There's no synergy going on, and then the other people have so much better decks, and you just high roll all the time. And that there is actually a system behind it. That's what I mean. That most people just didn't see that system, or were aware that there was a system, but didn't know how it works and were turned off by that. Like, why do I?
Yeah, so the answer to this is make a big sign when you click enter. Be aware there is a system behind this.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't do that anywhere. They just like they have like these
But it
bucket names, but
But we have other limited game modes. So Hearthstone Arena, until they did the kind of bucketing system, it really was 100% random, right?
yeah, but it was awful. Like you just oftentimes had an automatic choice, and the bucket system made it with.
Almost 100% random. It was like first, 10th, and 15th pick or something like that. It was at least rare. And rest was fully random. Like some picks were at least rare, but I don't remember exactly. And the rest was just fully random.
Yep, and I played that mode plenty. I enjoyed it. I assume you guys did as well. Not as much as Expeditions, but I think my um, enjoyment of a game does not necessarily increase because I think there is uh, a little less randomness, uh, or it doesn't decrease because I think it's fully random. In fact, I think in Hearthstone they went with the bucketing system, but then they've removed it again. Is that true?
No, I think the
It's
bucketing
still there.
system is still there.
Okay.
They are just updating it, and I'm not fully sure right now how it works, but it is still there.
Okay. I've heard that the person who came up with it has left, so it has remained unupdated for a while, maybe. Um, but yeah, so even with the expeditions bucketing system existing and not being fully random, the cards within the buckets are still random, right? The chance of you getting a mobilize or a screeching dragon within a bucket is uniform. You have equal chance. You cannot influence whether you get two mobilizes or two screeching dragons. So there's still randomness, and that's fine. I don't mind randomness. If I didn't want to play uh, a game with variance, then I wouldn't be playing a card game. So I'm okay with randomness. But then, yeah, I guess you speak to new players more than I do, Conan. And if you say that the reason why they dislike it is because they think it's too random, maybe that's just too much randomness for them. But showing them that it is a little less random, I don't think will make them feel like it's any less random. I effectively treat the bucketing system as random, and I'm still enjoying it quite a lot. So
Yeah, I can see that side of it. Just what my experience when like me and Myzrael went into detail with like if you take Shyvana here, you will see a Targon champion. Like how do you know that? That's so cool. And there's a system behind it. Like Myzrael, you saw that as well, right? Like where they
Yeah, I had that moment when I just type what bucket we show next time is energy peak, what's three, and then the student said, "Myzrael, you are a wizard."
yes, you can read the future. That's just how people feel. And I think that like the ultimate problem was that some people knew the system, how it worked. If it was fully hidden, then it would be fine. But if some people know how the system works, they end up with super overpowered decks and go 7 all the time. And the other people who treat it as random and are not like limited gods as Arthur have a big disadvantage and just don't win that much and don't play the mode that much. Because they're like, I play my random card stack and run against a person with 8 Puffcat Peddlers, and that's just no fun. They're cheating.
That's true. Puff Peddlers are not fun. You should ban this.
well, how I pick Puffcat Paddlers is if I see a Puffcat Peddler and I'm trying to get Puffcat Peddlers, I just pick it. I don't look at the buckets because even though you can tell me what buckets are going to show up, you can't tell me what cards within the buckets are going to show up. Until you tell me that, I don't really care too much about what buckets are showing up. So because I will pick good cards out of a bad bucket, than bad cards out of a good bucket. Um, so until you can show me, and it seems like we do have some way of showing that for some of the champion picks on first and third, right? But outside of
Yeah,
that, the chance of you telling me what cards are going to come out of this bucket that uh, I have a 100% chance to show up with this bucket, but if there's 10 commons in there, then each of them have 10% chance if it's coming up as a common. So
Yeah, but you're just slightly increasing your odds all the time. Like, let's say you have like magic card packs and you want to have a specific card, you would buy the card pack where it's got reprinted and not just a random card pack. You would might end up with another card, which is quite as almost as good, but if you want a specific card, you would just buy the packs where the card was actually printed. That's how I see the expedition buckets as well. You are not guaranteed to see it, but you're just more likely. And just slightly increases your win rate a little bit. It doesn't like change
yeah.
you immediately, but it just helps you a little bit. And the players who didn't get this help felt a little bit discriminated and that they were always up against OP decks. And
Yeah, it's a little thing. It doesn't probably change win rate in big scale too much, but third, fourth pick, this is the moments when I started to really care about which bucket I'm picking. Only this super early in the draft, like third or fourth pick.
yeah,
Something like that.
exactly. Later on, it doesn't matter, of course, but early on,
It matters much less later on. Early on, I believe this. Also, I need to address one thing that Arthur said about potentially working on having free or cheaper option to get to play limited format. I think not having free access to limited format is not a good idea, because it can start turning into clown fiesta, because people can with free access can do like stupid things, and every real deck just snowball through them and go like 7-0. And I know this from my experience when I tried to play poker with my family without any money as a stake, and it was clown fiesta, omega clown fiesta. So when you play limited format or poker, you should have something at stake, even if this is a very small stake.
Okay. Yeah, that's a
interesting.
fair point. That's probably the reason why all the limited game modes have something at stake. And the reason why when we're in free play, funnily enough, I've never gone into free play before, and I guess I never will now. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
you can't do this anymore.
I
There is no free play anymore right now from the patch.
I have heard that there is a 30-minute timer that stops you from retiring any bad draft, right?
15 minutes.
50 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. And that makes sense. Otherwise, people will just keep drafting until they think they have an overpowered deck and then play with that if they want to. Although obviously with nothing at stake, do you really care? But maybe some people would be trying to game the system.
I used this
Yeah.
free play a lot with like the figuring out the buckets. I would draft on one account, then while 15 minutes are running, log into the next account. While the next 15 minutes are running, log into the next account, and would like totally match up. I could just do a draft and retire, and do a draft and retire, and just figure out all the buckets in like one day. It's very fun.
Yeah, I once did a draft when I just normally genuinely tried to play as best as I can, and I played 2 games, went 0-2, and came back to see that there is a time limit and I cannot draft for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was frustrating. I had this one before. I had like a sick Teemo deck with like.
It was Pike, by the way.
Oh, you drafted seriously and drafted Pike. What was going on there?
I thought I had pretty good lurk deck, honestly, then, because I had a lot of lurks, and I did hit lurk 4 turns in a row and four first turns in the game, but then I just died to something quite random. They activated Go Hard, I think. They played like third Go Hard against me.
Okay. I didn't actually mention my last reason why I think it's not popular, and that's a little bit by the general design, that there were just no updates for the last year, or not that many updates, or they were hidden to the bucket system. You actually had to figure out yourself. But I think the new player system, if you like open the game, it really shows you play the path of champions, and it's very immersive. You like get pulled in and takes 1,000 clicks to get out again. And Path of Champions is immediately available for new players, whereas Expeditions is locked behind the new player pass and 5 more games. You can't even play Expeditions unless you played a lot of other game modes before. And that's also generally the lack of updates. If there was like a big page, Expedition, new patch, new update, or bucket changes, check it out now. Some images, I think many people would have actually tried. And before going into this video, I was like, I probably won't play Expeditions again, otherwise I will be just sad. But now seeing a Mountain Drake in Shyvana, in Arachnid Horror, in Nocturne, I'm like, oh my god, I have to try it out. This is new stuff, new meta. And just this lack of excitement, this lack of updates, is what was like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It was like, nobody's playing this game, we don't make any updates anymore, and then because there were no updates, nobody played this game, and it just kept spiraling down a little bit.
Yeah, I think I've posted the meme of Andre shooting someone on the show and saying, "Oh, who killed Expeditions?" And it was actually Riot. Um, like they're shooting themselves in the foot there. A long time ago, when um, we had, I think, champions within expeditions. People were incentivized for it. And then at one point, we also had better prismatic rewards for expeditions. If there was a leaderboard, there would be something to kind of compete against. But these things never really existed. So they kind of set themselves up to fail in that sense, which is kind of sad because I do think it could have been more successful if they decided to put the infrastructure in place to incentivize it properly. But because they didn't, it did become a self-fulfilling prophecy, as you said.
Yeah, and just no banner, no last try. I was very sad about that. Like just slowly discontinuing support. Everything you just heard about Expedition was just where's Chase, and why are there no updates for it? And my personal opinion is that this decision was like made a long time ago, but I didn't actually want to shut it down. And I like before like, yesterday I didn't understand why you would actually shut down a game mode. But I since then was told that even having this game mode and just in maintenance mode just costs you a lot of resources, and there's like dependencies with programming and code. So whenever you put something into another card, then you have to still value your expedition a little bit, and you can't just like leave it running like a server for an old game. You still always have to look at it and consider it when updating. In that perspective, it makes sense if they want to save space, maybe make a new mode or something like that. Remove it if it doesn't have any players, but still very sad.
Yeah, looking back, we did our 2021 year in review podcast last year. And I think two breakpoints for me was P Soto, Paul Sotosanti leaving at one point, and then Jace not being added to expeditions. Paul leaving at one point at the time, I thought was could have been a double-edged sword in that I think up to that point we were still unhappy with how little updates expeditions had. So I was certainly disappointed with him, and I was hoping that someone better, more devoted, would replace him. Obviously, in retrospect, we know that was not the case. So I was kind of getting my hopes up for no real reason. And things have taken a downturn. I wonder if his leaving uh, caused this decline, or if the decline caused him to leave. I don't know which way it went. I guess we'll probably never find out. Um, and Jace not being added was a real shock to me, especially in the midst of Arcane being released. There was a lot of hype for the show and the game, and I really wanted to kind of experience that through my favorite game mode. And it not being in there really surprised me and showed how little interest Riot had in maintaining expeditions. Still, you mentioned that it was not much of a surprise to you, Conan, or any of you guys. I don't know how you felt about it, Myzrael, but it was a surprise to me. Herko mentioned at some point that he thought it was strange, suspicious that there was so much silence on expeditions, and I just thought they didn't want to say anything about it. Um, uh, Not that they were going to shut it down. And if anything, again, I was getting my hopes up that maybe after the expansion with the roadmap, they'll be announcing more updates, maybe a leaderboard for expeditions. So I saw the kind of upside, and I was more optimistic about, or cautiously optimistic about, maybe they're keeping their lips shut because they don't want to spoil the surprise for us. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a nightmare. but I did not see that coming really, and it was the worst Valentine's Day that could have had. So yeah.
Yeah, I think my first real hint for that was with the Aphelios not getting its own bucket. I never understood that. Why wouldn't you just make a new bucket for Aphelios with like maybe with Diana, maybe with like I guess back then there wasn't like a spell thing, but with Lux, for example, why wouldn't you just make it a second bucket? Just do it like in three champion buckets, and like I think the underlying game is generally pretty figured out already. Like I think they already had all of the champions semi-designed a little bit when they started Legends of Runeterra, and then planted hints in different cards. Like for example, with Galio, we now have this 1/3 with these spells, or we have already like cards like Ivan, the Zone Seeds in the game. I think they had these basic champions figured out already, and did already have their card buckets a little bit prepared maybe, but just for the special champions, the event champions, Aphelios was new back then, Akshan, Viego, and Chase, maybe they didn't have these fully designed yet, they made them right then, right there, and that's why in the end, Viego bucket and Action bucket were really strong, and Aphelios never got a bucket, Chase never got a bucket, so I think it started like I don't know for sure, obviously, but I think it started a while ago.
They thought a lot in advance to in preparing buckets like packs and pets. We have right now we got Yumi I think to Pantheon, and there was like two bundle city cards added before. I think they thought some time in advance. For me, it was more than a surprise. It was shock. I couldn't believe at first for a moment. I also didn't see that coming. I was like Arthur. I was looking for it carefully optimistic. I was thinking that silence is because we have a new big update, big change to expeditions, new phase of expeditions and something, but ends up not being true.
I was a little bit scared for the general future of Legends of Runeterra. Like I don't want to be too pessimistic, of course. Just the way the new player experience is now, you have to play through Path of Champions first to actually make it to the game. And with the removal of expeditions, a main source for players to get cards fast is removed. Like the main source, like what do you even spend on your shards now? Just cards basically. And Path of Champions doesn't give you that many cards. So as a new player, you just have to get your cards from the weekly vault, and there's basically no other way
There's
to
200
get shots.
experience for a winning Path of Champions, so it is pretty quick through reward tracks for the new player.
Yes, but just the reward tracks, and not like any other way to gain more cards faster if you like invest the time.
Is there any faster way to get new cards if
Like
you are not pro in expeditions to then 200 experience points and when going to a reward track?
Like expeditions overall gives you more experience no matter how many wins you go, because you still get this experience in the end. Like you get 100 per win, and then in the end you get like extra experience for your whole draft. If you go like 6 wins, you get 1000 experience.
Two losses is 150, I think.
Yes.
So it's less than one win in Path of Champions.
Yes, but like these are also losses. So yeah, I can see what you mean, but it's also limited for Path of Champions. Like you can't. I think there's like 18 wins per day, and it goes down.
Little more. I think it's a little more. It's at least 20, maybe even like 25.
Yeah, but like expeditions in open play, there was no limit for this experience, and I literally like one day I had like fully free. I spent like 9 days, 9 hours just playing open play, and had like 2 reward tracks finished in one day. And like not quite 2 reward tracks, of course, but you get what I mean. And that's just not possible anymore for anyone who's really dedicated, wants to get into the game. They have to wait for a week and then play again, wait. And I think many players will just like play, have fun, and then put it down because they can't progress anymore, and then don't pick it up again. Maybe play another game. It's more grindy.
I'm still fairly certain that it's faster in labs to gain this experience. I think from 4 wins expeditions have better cards for each game, and games in labs are faster than expeditions. So I think you have to go consistently 5 wins, which means you are really good. So it's not a good idea for a new player.
You can go 5 wins with 50%. It's a wonderful thing of the system. Like, you can win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. I've never seen any system like that before. You can lose 7 times and still get the full reward.
6.
No, 7. You can lose on 0 wins as well. Right? Or am I stupid?
But you cannot lose on 6, so it makes you 6 still. You can lose on 0, on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4, and on 5. It's 6 times. You cannot lose on 6 because you have only one try.
Yeah, that's true. 6 times. I just counted on the screen. So yeah, you're correct. Only 6 times, but still, it's like double the times you can lose in expeditions or in expeditions in Magic Arena or online. And yeah, it's a little bit. Maybe Path of Champions is like going to be a big success. Last thing I also wonder is, how does Path of Champions make the Riot money? You don't play any entry price. You have to have the 2 champions, but don't like you already have your board set up, and like in expeditions, I had an incentive to buy my board and buy my guardian, match my things together, because my opponent gets to see them and I get to see them, and I'm happy. Our champions, like expeditions, at least some people, I knew some people who really spent like 50 euros just to draft again and again and again, and I find it surprising that they prioritize a mode that doesn't really give them any revenue.
I'm not sure about this. When you play all the way with Misfortune, you started like the character because you hear the line, the voice lines, and see level up animations, and you see on in the shop that there is a new skin for Misfortune. Wouldn't you want it? There's no such a thing in expeditions, so I'm not sure if you are right in this.
Maybe I'm not like. For context, Myzrael just bought the Misfortune skin. It's pretty cool. How much is it, this skin?
Yeah,
Is it
this
like
skin is really cool. It's 100 something coins. I'm not
100?
sure exactly.
Right?
100 something. I don't remember exactly.
Not 100. It's a
One-
thousand.
Yeah, it's 1,000. Yeah, it's 1,000. Yeah, right. It's 1,000 something.
Discount.
I will buy it for 100. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
it's
buying
1,000 and something, of course.
Did you get Quinn as well?
No, I did get only Misfortune.
Okay. I don't know. I like the arcade skin line is like my least favorite in like League as well. I thought about not
Really?
getting her.
I love
Yes.
the arcade line. Yeah, I guess everyone's different. I didn't like Earthshaker too much, or Worldbreaker or whatever previously. But I love KDA, and I know that is very controversial for a lot of people. I love the arcade line though, so
Interesting.
and I do like the Misfortune skin a lot, but I'm not going to spend over 1,000 coins for it. So
Okay. My favorite skins are like actually prestige skins, which sounds pretty stupid because most people hate it. But I think Prestige Kaiser looks so good.
I don't know what you're talking about. I
There's
know
like
what Arthur is talking about, though. Arthur was speaking so much about KDA that I like had recently 2 weeks of listening only to KDA, nothing else. And if you know me and know that I have headphones on me almost all the time, this means that I had solid maybe hundreds of hours of listening to KDA. So
wow, okay. Have you? I don't know if you can still buy
hundreds
the
is
board.
probably not this. Not it's probably not hundreds, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
Okay. I don't know if you can still buy the board anymore, but the board has KDA music
yes,
instrumental.
KDA World Tour, KDA World Tour, right?
I think so.
you can still buy
So
it for sure.
I can. So
What?
I
Okay,
can
sure.
buy it.
Okay, that's good. I didn't know if it was event limited or not. I bought everything KDA related during the event, and I was saving up my coins up for the next one, but I guess I won't anymore. So
Maybe. I don't know. Like I'm just looking at this Misfortune skin now and think about getting it or not. I'm not sure yet. Maybe, but it's like the best skin. Like the Nivea skin, I don't like very much. It just looks weird for Nivea
It's
too.
cool. I like a Nivea skin. It's cool.
Like it. I think it's very cool. I think it's very funny as well. But I wouldn't buy it. Certainly not for another 1,000 or so. I do prefer the Misfortune skin, but I still only play expeditions really, and I haven't probably played Bilgewater in maybe a month. So even though I think Misfortune is great, I just think Bilgewater in general is so weak that I don't play Misfortune for a long time now. So it wouldn't make any sense for me to get a Misfortune skin.
Okay, that leads us to our last point, our last discussion. What are your plans for the future? And what game mode will you probably play if Expeditions gets removed? And like not if, but when Expeditions gets removed, how will you proceed from there? We start with Arthur again.
Right. So I guess I'm in a slightly unique position in that so the others know, but the listeners won't know. But so my wife and I are expecting a baby on the 1st of April. So certainly at some point in the near future, I was always expecting to have to maybe take a break from gaming in general because I just won't have as much time looking after the baby. So I was expecting to, take a break and then come back and see my friends enjoying expeditions still, and so on. But obviously, given the news on Monday, it looks like I might not have anything to come back to by then. I don't know. Because for me, at the moment, I only play uh 3 expedition wins per day and 3 Path of Champion wins per day. The reason why I play Path of Champions is to grind for the prismatic chests that I want to use in expeditions. I don't play any constructed at all except for one ranked game per season to get more prismatic shards for expeditions. If they remove expeditions, which they will in May, then I won't be able to play that anymore. I don't foresee myself going to constructed, and I don't think there will be much point in me playing Path of Champions either because I think the game mode is just too easy. And I wouldn't have any reason to grind for prismatic chests. So I do think I will leave Legends of Runeterra at the latest by May, if not earlier, because of the baby. And obviously I'm very sad and disappointed by that. And as I said, I don't expect a limited game mode to come to Runeterra again anytime soon. Certainly not this year, probably not next year, or if ever. So yeah, I'm very sad about that because I started with League of Legends and I really like the Riot lore for League of Legends, and I was very happy to come back to the League of Legends champions through a card game because that's the game mode that I enjoy the most. I sucked at League of Legends. Um, so having to step back from that again is sad. I'll continue watching Arcane. That might be one way that I'll be consuming League of Legends lore again in the future. Um, but if there is only constructed modes and Path of Champions available, uh, constructed doesn't have the variety that I'm looking for, and PvE labs just doesn't have the challenge that I'm looking for. So I don't think there is space for me in this game anymore, unfortunately. Um, as I mentioned, I had looked into going back to Hearthstone Arena, but I think that is also a dying mode. But maybe Blizzard doesn't have the history of putting unpopular game modes out of its misery, so it may just stick around forever with very little love from the developers. So I don't think there's much point in me going into back to Hearthstone Arena. I will continue playing Magic Arena because Draft is going from strength to strength there. The limited community is fantastic, and we've recently got a new kind of data source, a new tracker that collates a lot of data on Unlimited. And I've really enjoyed making use of that because I'm a data analyst by profession. And I think I can get a lot of edge there in terms of analyzing that data well and early. So I'll continue playing Magic, drafting Magic on Magic Arena. Today, looking at the event trailer for Teamfight Tactics, I even considered doing that. I have played one game of Teamfight Tactics and did terribly because I don't know the rules. But I have heard that it is a drafting game which is more strategic than about reactions. So maybe I will try that because that might be one way that I can kind of continue consuming Riot lore, basically League of Legends style world stuff.
Maybe Hearthstone Battlegrounds then, since it's pretty similar to Teamfight Tactics.
I did play Battlegrounds when it released. I didn't enjoy it. I think I preferred Arena to Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds came out, I tried it, and I didn't see what the fuss was all about. I'm surprised it's so popular. I think the auto chess or auto battlers isn't as just isn't as enjoyable for me. I still do prefer playing out my games in addition to drafting. And between League of Legends lore versus, say, Warcraft lore, I still prefer League of Legends lore because I never got into World of Warcraft. So my experience from that IP is all from Hearthstone, which I did play for a number of years. As for my immediate future, I'm currently still doing the same thing as I've always been. So I'm kind of ignoring the fact that I will have to leave at some point. So I'm still playing expeditions. And I have some personal goals that I'd like to achieve before it finishes or before I have to leave. As I mentioned, for kind of New Year's, I was hoping to be able to get to a 5.0 Arrow Guardian before the end of the year. Now I have a lot less time to do that in. The game mode is leaving in May. I don't know if I'll achieve it. It's very hard to move even single digits at this point, especially if you crap out on a run. But at minimum, I think I can move up at least one more spot and be quite happy. And at some point, I might just give all of that up and start doing the kind of lowest mastery challenge because I still have a number of champions that I have 0 mastery with just because they're rubbish, like Zerath. And the fact that I was recently beaten by Zerath as final boss, who did it very well, made me interested. Although it's tough, it's certainly doable. So maybe I'll do a challenge with that or something. And because I still have about 2,000 coins left over, mostly from Google surveys and stuff, I was going to save them for the next time KDA comes back, but when that happens, I'm not expecting it this year, probably next year, I'll probably have left Runeterra by then. So I've decided that I'm actually just going to go out with a bang and buy the event pass for the arcade event that's out now. It will only use up half my coins and might as well enjoy it as much as I can for the next month or two. And yeah, get the final boss Vigar skin. I think it's pretty good value. This is the first time they've had an event pass that has a skin in it as well, and I do like final boss Vigar. Yeah, I even play him occasionally in expeditions, so might as well make use of the gold that I have left over because when I left Hearthstone, I had a lot of dust and collection. So there's no point dying a rich man, so might as well make use of it.
Myzrael, what are your plans?
Yeah. My plans are a little different since I normally seek 2 types of games for myself. One type of game is the one that I can compete in, and this is main game that feeds the show right now is Hearthstone. and also a little. Not that a little, quite a lot, but less than Hearthstone, Legends of Runeterra Constructed. And I would probably stay in a Legends of Runeterra client, playing this Constructed and trying to qualify for other seasonals and trying to maybe hit finally Masters. This would be something to achieve definitely. About expeditions, I'm probably going to stop playing them immediately, since there's no incentive, there's no big incentive for me to play Expeditions 3 right now. And this change, this sunset of Expeditions, probably just going to push me more towards playing constructed more to be better player, potentially grind qualifications for the seasonals. Second type of game that I'm seeking normally, and this is the point where Expeditions fit the role, is more of a relaxing game. The game that I can not be very fully focused on what I'm doing, but I can enjoy the one. And this is something that maybe Path of Champions event still going to be in this role a little bit, but there are a lot of games that I used to use for this mode in the past, like Europa Universalis 4, like Slay the Spire. I have also Persona 5 Strikers to finish, so I'm probably going to get back to this game also, and this means that I kind of have some stuff to do to replace Expeditions, even though it's not gonna be easy because Expeditions is something that I enjoyed the most in that role. But we all know that this is gonna end, and and I'm gonna try to use to live without Expeditions faster.
Okay, so for me, I will make a separate video, and you might have already watched this when you watched this video. Basically, I'm not quite sure yet. I thought before that I would just also completely leave Expeditions and like play different games, play Magic Arena, play Constructed, Path of Champions. It's a little bit more impactful for me because of my channel, of course. But I've not fully decided yet, and should you should watch the other video where I go more in depth about my future plans. For now, I just want to say that Constructed is surprisingly deep. I had a similar feeling to playing StarCraft when I played the Legends of Runeterra Constructed, where you are going like up, and you think, okay, I know everything, I know every matchup, I know every deck, and then you just hit a wall at like Platinum, for example, or like Gold, Platinum usually, and then you're like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not winning anymore? And then you see that there's so much more going on, even in Constructed. And with Arthur, you said before you don't like the Constructed being like just 2 decks or 3 decks. I went through the Masters leaderboard and preparing for the tournament, the Expeditions or the Expeditions tournament. That would be fun. The Seasonals tournament. And I found, I just looked at the top like people with 200 at least points, and I found 45 different decks to prepare for, and looked at all the deck lists. And we had quite a diverse meta in the open rounds at least. And it's really special in the Legends of Runeterra. There are always like 20 to 30 decks viable constructed who all fill a different role. And we only had like one meta with the Aurelia, it was really stale. And I've normally never played constructed, but Legends of Runeterra actually had me interested. So you already have the full collection. You might as well give it a shot, maybe in the future.
I mean, the design of Legends of Runeterra and the design of Champions is something that causes this diverse meta more than in other games, because basically every champion have its win condition, and and when there's a lot of different win conditions that can work simultaneously, because if there are so many of them, that balance each other to the point that they normally can work in most of them. And this means that they are playable, and they don't feel bad when you queue with them on ladder. This is the nature of quest decks in Hearthstone. I like the comparison between champions in Legends of Runeterra and quest decks in Hearthstone. Quest decks having this this road to go to achieve your power spike, and the same thing is about champions. And if there is similar win conditions between the classes in Headstone, then normally the metas are pretty balanced. This happened recently. We have fairly balanced meta. Like 2 days ago, there was patch and new expansion yesterday. But another example was old gods back then, when there was when you could have made basically any deck, just shoving Ktun and Ktun support cards, and you could play any class with that and have real win condition. So if you have similar ways to go to victory, there is a lot of them in the game. They happen in the same time normally, and close to the same time. Meta is more diverse, and the champions design, champions by design, make this feeling more and more in metas, I think.
Yeah, certainly. Maybe if I have time, I can consider trying to grind for masters, which I don't think I've ever gotten past iron in Runeterra before. I've never tried, because expeditions was more fun. But yeah, maybe despite me finding expeditions more fun than constructed, maybe constructed is still more fun than any other game I could be playing. In which case maybe I'll play that still. Maybe I'll just try and grind to masters once, and just to prove that I can. I did that in Hearthstone up to legend. Took a while, but yeah, just did it I think once or twice and then gave up, went back to arena. So yeah.
And like just grinding to masters is not that hard. Just play a deck long enough, and it depends on the player. But if you like play with a 53% win rate, you will eventually get masters. Which I've like recently gotten a little bit more into the competitive scene, and the seasonals was probably one of the most intense thing I've ever played. Just there's so much more going on when you have very high level players playing against each other, and this experience maybe actually have less fun in expeditions, because sometimes expeditions games feel just like bot games when you just play against a new player who doesn't really know what they're doing. And some of these constructed games I've did was really mind-blowing. With the Ari Conan, for example, I loved playing against this deck. I loved like the mind games going on and the passing mechanics. And I think Legend of Terror is still a very awesome game, even if the most awesome game mode goes away. And we'll probably still stay with it in some way or shape.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in competitive Hearthstone. Like we played last week, we played. I play in Max League of Nations, a big tournament for nations, and I play as a part of Poland team. And we played our games against Croatia. It was super intense. It was super close, hard, and really trying to outthink and outplay each other. When we talk about the clash of top level players, it's something really great if you are a part of this.
As a final kind of thing, we want to do a what should I pick, or what would you pick together. And I have this loot over here for my champions, or for my master season, and the 3 epic chests that we can open. And yeah, we can do a what would you pick in these chests. You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think you have everything prismatic, so let's show.
Well, we'll see. I don't have everything prismatic. Maybe we get an upgrade or something. Oh.
It's Sun Guardian. It's always Sun Guardian, right?
But Sun Guardian, like.
Albus Ferros is not in expedition, so it's not a real card. It's Sun Guardian.
Yeah, I would take Sun Guardian here.
Okay. Yeah, true. Albus Ferros is not in expeditions, but with expeditions is no longer in expeditions. And maybe Albus Ferros is the right choice.
It is for like 3 months more, so please don't say such a thing.
Maybe they added chase to expeditions, like just in the end to troll us. We didn't find out yet. Maybe.
Last day chase added.
That would be amazing. Okay, Sun Guardian it is. I think I have all the Daybreak cards, Prismatic. 100 Essence, nice. And upgrade. Oh,
I haven't got an epic one for a very long time.
oh, this one's close.
Glorious Evolution make all your stuff prismatic?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's not.
It doesn't work.
So it's Monastery of Hirana because more value because Sanctuary is prismatic or no?
It should be Prismatic. And Monastery of Irana is like in 7 different card buckets, so I have all this knowledge that I can't use anymore. It's so sad. Like, I was charmed by Arthur saying I was probably the person who knows the most about expedition buckets, which is probably true, but also kind of useless achievement.
Yeah, we can wake you up in the middle of the night and ask about the bucket if the card is in the bucket and you fail-proof and you're a fail-proof answer.
Yeah, like even
But
now I know.
even better than spreadsheet because there are mistakes in spreadsheet and you know all of them anyways.
Exactly, like I could tell you where Mormos Call lives, where Glorious Evolution lives, Monastery of Irana. Obvious choice. Like most fun I've had recently was Conan Monastery of Irana deck. Okay, and last one, upgrade. Oh, yes, yes! Woo!
Oh.
That's interesting.
Oh, best champion
It has to be five, the best champion expeditions. I actually in Balco data on Navi it's worse right now, so I don't know. Yeah, but if we want to be consistent, Pike transfers to death from below, so it's 2 cards, so you should be Pike.
Also, if I really want to be a path champion speedrunner, like everybody runs with Pike, so Pike already being prismatic.
Wait, isn't Jinx?
Get the bone skewer, so finally
Yeah.
you got prismatic bone skewer.
Oh my god.
It has to be Pike.
Yes.
It has to be Pike.
And like I got 300 coins, right? 300 essence. So I still have to like fulfill the destiny of the bone skewer. Here you go. Now the best card in the game is prismatic as well.
You mean Vanguard Lookout? Sure, Vanguard Lookout.
Yeah, like Lookout is already prismatic, like.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad we did this together. And of course, for the viewers, this might be the last expedition podcast in the near future or ever. Yes, foreseeable future or like ever. We hope like if Riot does a new draft format, we will maybe still be around and join together. We might come together for another podcast of some shape, like General Limited or something. But we are like mainly an Expeditions folk podcast, and if Expeditions is no longer around, and there's not much to talk about. And I really enjoyed having you two with me. You were like my most consistent guests, and it was really fun doing these ratings with you and just doing the spreadsheet, arguing about random useless stuff like how good Bone Skewer is. I think that, like nobody of us picked up this card ever afterwards, right? Like,
yeah, I still can't believe this Bone Skewer discussion.
I will.
Yeah, I have neither played with it or against it since we last spoke, so my rating has not changed for this card. So
Mine neither.
I played it in Path of Champions and it lost me the game, so I maybe drop it to 1.
But I played in Path of Champions and it won me the game, so
goes up to 10 then. So
yes, so you have the full polarity between 1 and 10. Okay.
Yeah, it has been great being on a podcast. I listen to so many Magic Limited podcasts, but I really thought there was a space here for a Legends of Runeterra Expeditions podcast. And I think people used to joke about how many people are starting up podcasts over the pandemic. And I thought that was silly, but then I ended up on a podcast that I didn't expect to be on. So yeah, it's just been really fun. I mean, ultimately, it's just us chatting as friends being recorded on the internet. That's all. So
exactly.
That's how I saw it. If anyone can make use of it, then go for it.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool experience. I'm really glad to be part of this. I hope Riot will found out about something that we can talk about later in the future again. And I think let's stay with the hope, right? I think this is let's hope that this is not a full goodbye, but we're just waiting for a better opportunity.
Yeah, I don't regret any of the projects that we engaged. What little use others have had out of it was enough, and the fact that we enjoyed making them was enough. Whether it be the podcast, the rating spreadsheet, various kind of apps that we articles we engaged Herco to do, and apps that we got to Doom to do. All of these things kind of, we had fun making it, and yeah, I don't regret any of that. So,
And thanks
Me
to
too.
thanks to you as the viewer as well, who have constantly had like 20 to 30 views. So somebody had to have enjoyed listening to us. And if that's you right now still listening at the end of this really very long podcast, then thank you so much for watching and really appreciate you being around. Discord will still be around, so if you want to chat with us personally, you can still join our Discord. And thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.
Goodbye for now.
goodbye.